but I'll show you kind of like how things run here. So, have you ever seen this diagram yet, Jenna?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. This is a diagram showing essentially what the company looks like in terms of a flow chart. Okay, so I'll briefly bring you through some of these. The purpose of having this discussion is to really have this idea of what it means to be a hospitality service company. This idea of services is actually very, very entrenched in almost everything we do, and it's a paradigm of how we actually are going to innovate and possibly transform guest partners and employees. Okay, so everything we do at Bukit Vista runs through the services. Okay, there's services to onboard people, there's services to select people, there's services to maintain client relationships, social media, all these. You can think of all these as essentially services. Okay, so this whole company, what we do is we create all these services. In let's say a typical employee journey. Okay, let's start with here, right? So you could say that at the very essence, everything begins with our brand. The brand is the touch point for which somebody, let's say a potential employee, they become aware about Bukit Vista, right? So how do they become aware of Bukit Vista? Well, these are the different channels where we currently pursue awareness. Okay, we have like BVE talks, and out of that we have the Instagram. We have university portals where we distribute jobs, professors where we have relationships, clubs, our backlink index, which increases the website traffic, LinkedIn, which increases website traffic, and mailing lists, which increase website traffic. So those are sort of like all the diverse ways that we raise awareness, and they funnel into this job site, right? From that, the job site delivers another service to the next layer, which is of course applicants, right? And this is where we create SLAs. How many applicants do we expect to get from, let's say, the job site being managed by the person who's managing that particular campaign? And each particular field is a service, right? There's an engagement service to keep people engaged so they show up for interviews and they become part of the selection process. And then there's a selection service that brings people in so that they become new employees. And then there is essentially, transformation services. So actually, this is where we need to understand a little something about this graph. I'll come back to this graph a little bit later, but this is where we're going to make some adjustments because there's some mistakes here, and we're going to take a look at those and try to fix that mistake. Okay. The fundamental thing you should know about is that every SLA is essentially designed as such, right? There's an SLA that maintains a innovation lifetime. That's why we have essentially a card or like a Trello card, so that maintains a project roadmap and a project history. It has an owner, and we can think about how to improve that particular line of service. Okay, so that's the SLA. An SLA is of course supported by two things, right? This either supported by a campaign. It's sort of by like, okay, so how would I explain this? So there is one type of campaign over on this side. This type of campaign is actually supported by, let's say, an asset. So you can think of this as somebody who's running a campaign to maintain one of our social media channels, like a LinkedIn or a website. So it's through the action of the asset and maintaining, optimizing the asset that we actually get the results that we're looking for that SLA. Uh, in other campaigns, let's say that are a little bit more without an asset, we need to manually turn things over and over again. This can be like doing outreach. Okay, so outreach should actually be looking for their assets would probably be relationships that are already established. But if we're going and doing new relationships, then those new relationships would be part of where the campaigns they don't particularly have an asset, so we just need to keep on working on pivots. If the pivots produces a result, then great. If not, then we need to keep on pivoting and working on it. Okay. So the important thing to remember here is about this idea of what is an ETS. Is an ETS a pivot or is it an asset?
Depends, right?
Correct, correct. What does it depend on?
Depends on whether the ETS has been perfectly pivoted to become like that.
Correct, correct. Okay, very good. Brian Chesky one time at Airbnb told me this thing. I thought it was fairly inspirational. He said, everything you see here at Airbnb in our present moment, and this was already, I think, probably 5 or 6 years into the company already. Okay. He says, everything you see here has actually been built by people who are no more gifted than yourself, actually. So what you see around, all the things that are happening, these were built by somebody. Somebody had to make this happen. And I didn't exactly know what he meant at the time, right? But what he wanted to say was he wanted to challenge us to continuously to think about how to make the things that we were experiencing better by not taking anything that we were experiencing for granted, by not just like thinking about, oh, this has always been this way, so it should always be this way. We had traditions at Airbnb. We had a formal Friday. Everybody would dress up in formal costumes on Friday rather than opposed to like normally it was like casual Fridays, right? So Airbnb did it like a little bit reverse. Somebody came up with that idea. That became, you could say, it's an ETS. It's something that was essentially developed to create a sense of culture, a sense of belonging, something to distinguish Airbnb from other startups, right? So those are the things that, yeah, you got the idea, right? Is the ETS ever finished? Is it become an asset? It really depends. Has it reached the level of perfection or not? Okay. So the thing about ETS is that as a newcomer in here, you're probably going to be able to detect more ETSs than somebody who is already here. Because most of the things that you are learning, we might not even be aware that these are part of our culture already. So part of the ETS journey that makes it really interesting is that ETSs are often discovered, not created. So we'll discover, oh, okay, let's say maybe, well, like let's say the way you're actually evolving the happy hour right now, okay? Um, Maybe that's planned, maybe that was improvised, but somebody needs to discover it. Go, hey, look, that is a new sort of riff on what we're doing, right? We've created improvisation now on the old culture. So let's create a innovation pathway for that, right? Let's take that, capture it, put it on ETS, and think of ways how we can evolve that and make it different, make it better, right? So that is actually the process of how we normally find out about an ETS. Like, let's say the other part, a lifts reporting method. Okay, so we saw that. We saw, hey, that's actually really good. Let's capture that and let's make that, give that a way to grow, and then cultivate it. So, in many ways, if you're developing, let's say, bottom funnel, what you should be doing is you should be thinking about you're kind of like a botanist. Okay, you're going out into the wild and you're looking for strange fruits or strange like kind of things that could be actually useful, and you're taking those things and you're putting them in your greenhouse, and you put them in your greenhouse and you grow them and you produce like in abundant quantities, and you serve people with that, and that is how you transform the people around you, and that's how you build culture. Okay. Many times it is better to do that than to try to do something deliberate. Okay, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So the employee office hour was something that we created to actually try to deal with burnout, right? We saw that it was happening, and then we was like, okay, all right, let's create this thing. It's not really working, right? It doesn't really kind of catch on. What we should have done instead, I think, is to just pay attention, observe the employee population, and look for somebody who is managing burnout in a very creative, very interesting way. So we go, okay, all right, it seems like you, sir, are very overloaded, or you, ma'am, are very overloaded. How do you manage all these conflicting things going on in your mind? We find, let's say, Bayu, right? His idea of separating things day by day to give him more strategic focus is actually a way to deal with burnout. Because a lot of the burnout happens from context switching. 5 minutes you're here talking about something related to this, the next 5 minutes you're something else, doing something else. So all this context switching kind of gets you all unable to focus, and then you end up working at like 2 a.m. when nobody's like chatting with you and discording with you to actually focus and get your real work done. But what if you just set aside dedicated pathways for that work? What if you actually created that? So that is an example of something that like we can do, right? We can notice that, hey, look, somebody's created something here by themselves to deal with an issue. Do we think as part of HR that this can address one of the problems that we're dealing with? If we do, We should recognize it first. We should, like a botanist, take that thing and start growing it in the greenhouse so that it can spread out. Okay, so that's a little bit about the ETS principle. Does that make sense to you, Jenna?
Yep.
Okay, all right, cool. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay, good. Because this is the thing that we notice, right? And this is getting back to the direction that I saw with this particular. This is why I kind of wrote back really quickly. We had been doing this particular method before, right? We had been asking people basically questions about their mental health or questions about things that might indicate that people were experiencing uh, what we now know as neuroticism or psychosis or depression or all these things. What we realized was two things from that experience. One, there's not much we can do about it, even if we get the answers back, right? Let's say somebody is experiencing breathing difficulty. Um, how am I going to be able to do about that? I don't even know who it. This is an anonymous survey, or it's meant to be anonymous. I don't know even who this is. So, okay. Actually, this is also mandatory for everybody to go through this entire process, right? They have to check every single box, which kind of creates a second problem, which is it starts creating this focus on negative emotions, right, rather than inspirational emotions. Um, it starts getting to people start focusing on their flaws and develops a sense of greater neuroticism. So imagine I have two surveys. Okay, for example, I asked one survey, how many times do you feel depressed every day? How many times do you think about suicide every day? How many times have you thought about punching your colleagues every day? Right? If you go down that pathway, you're going to start getting dirt, and you're going to start getting people to think about dirt, and it in a way starts getting people almost into a negative cycle. I've noticed, right? So instead of actually kind of focusing on things that can empower them, they start focusing on the things that they have no capability of controlling or actually dealing with, right? So if you took the survey and you say, how many times have you found negative emotions, but you were able to manage it correctly? Okay. How many times did you want to punch your colleague in the face and you decided not to do that? Right? How many times did you think about suicide and you thought about something positive and it steered your mind away from that? So those are actually a bit more empowering type of questions, and those are questions that actually can get the person not to feel powerless, but to actually feel more empowered. Um, I happen to actually have strong personal. My dad suffers a bit from mental illness, and I think I got maybe a little bit myself, right? But what I've seen is that this industry that deals with mental illness, I think they actually perpetuate the problem sometimes by actually asking people to kind of dwell on their negative parts instead of actually helping them heal. That's how the industry continues in a way, right? As long as people are sick, there's going to be somebody who actually can heal them. So, in a particular way, I'm always a little bit skeptical from just personal firsthand encounters with what I see. But I've also seen that empirically here in the company. When we tend to focus on questions that make people delve into negativity, it becomes really hard to inspire delight. Now, what I don't mean to say is this. I don't want to say this is a problem. We're going to sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. That's not my point at all. Right? What it is I think we need to be transparent. Okay, if somebody is dealing with this, we need to find ways for them to express it, but not ask everybody to go down this negative spiral. Right? We need to get the people who are experiencing burnout to speak up. Right? So it needs to be very targeted. Um, uh, think of it this way, right? Think of it the opposite. Think of if we set an expectation that everybody should be an overachiever, right? Like, do you feel like your colleagues slow you down, right? Do you feel like there's multiple people in the room who are dumb and can't follow your line of logic? Do you feel like the work here is too easy for your capacity? Do you feel like you could be given more responsibility, but the company doesn't recognize that? Um, you see what I'm saying, right? If you set the expectations one way or the other in kind of like an extreme way, then you create a feeling, oh, maybe I'm inadequate now, right? Or maybe my achievements are not achievements because I should be thinking about, how to think about something internally. Um, Okay. Anyways, so the point I'm trying to make here is, yes, if this is a problem, we need to, this is why I said we need to evolve the way we try to detect that. One-on-ones are supposedly a good way because that allows for this type of situation to be targeted. We know, okay, you are experiencing burnout, you are experiencing things. Um, just like interview questions, though, Jenna, we don't want to ask people outright because, yeah, you're right. That's maybe something that they wouldn't be feeling secure sharing, right? But there are ways to discover it using questions that are kind of like trying to detect. Okay, like, hey, look, how often do you get work that just can't be done during normal work hours, and you need to, extend past into your holidays, right, to do it? And then why does that happen, right? And then I think if we do that, then people will start talking, and we need to figure out what the root cause of that can be. The root cause is generally one of two things, right? It's either an expectation issue, and that needs to be resolved between the person and the expectations of the company, right? So the expectation issue could be, oh, I thought I had to get all this done before this time, right? Uh, or I don't want to face failure, or whatever it might be. It might be something that is within the mind of the actual person, and it just needs to be discussed and sort of resolved using an empathetic approach, okay? The other thing it could be is it could be a reality issue. It could be that we are truly overworking people, or there's no alignment between the kind of work we do and the capacity that people is in the company. So we need to maybe tone it down or do something differently, right? So those both could be the issues. But as savvy HR people, I think what we need to do is we need to be very focused. Burnout, if it is a problem, like anxiety, like sexual harassment, like any of the negative things that could be happening, we need to be very targeted about where to find that out and kind of snatch it from there and help the person who needs to be helped. Um, and not kind of create the suggestion that everybody should be suffering from this and just tell us your worries, right? So I think that part needs to be there. All right. What do you feel about that part? Is that correct? Your thought process.
Yeah, I think like it makes a lot more sense now. Like the part where you mentioned like we shouldn't be focusing on the negative emotions. Like I didn't think of that part, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Right, right. I mean, you don't want to swing it too far either way. You don't want to make it so that, oh, hey, if you're not overachieving here, then you're a loser. You should go back to where you came from, right? That's kind of toxic achievement, like super Asian, like crazy parent culture, right? But you also don't want to make it where it becomes an apologetic culture, where we apologize for everything, for having to make people like, wake up, apologize for having you to turn on your computer. So there is a balance, and what I always like to say is this, right? Uh, what I've seen over countless iterations of people coming and going through this company is this: there is always a internal solution for an external problem, right? There's always a way that you can kind of like, if you master yourself, you can master the world, and it comes with having this strength and this understanding, a growth mindset, right? We can grow. The problems might be here, and of course, I can't solve it now. But I also realized that the president of my country was a baby at one point, right? And probably could do less than me. Maybe you'll get to my age one day, right, Jenna, and you start realizing there's a lot of younger people who are much more successful than me that can deal with a lot more problems than I can deal with. Why can't I do that, right? Mark Zuckerberg is 2 years younger than me. Brian Chesky is about the same age as me. They're both like, billionaires, right? So I often go, could I have done that? Bring on the challenges, right? Give me those challenges. Give me the opportunity to do that. So that's another way you can frame it. And if you frame it that way, that really inspires people to like really rise above. And when they have their exits, they go, you know what? There is a difference between the way I came in and the way I leave. Okay, so all right. That being said, let's talk about kind of like the engineering aspect of how we build ETSs and how it should look. So the point I'm trying to make is this: because everything is run through a service, if you want to deal with burnout, if you want to deal, let's say, with mental wellness in the company, if we want to deal with, let's say, even some of the negative things, right? Like let's say employee bad behavior. I don't know what that's called, but there's an HR term for that, right? Things like sexual harassment, corruption, scandalous stuff inside the company. Then we need to think about what kind of ETS are we actually going to create to address that issue? Okay? And we need to discover it, capture it, and Trello card it so that we know what to do. Okay, this is incorrect. Tell me why this graph is incorrect.
Uh, like the graph for ETS, EES, and employee experience.
Yeah, it's not hooked up correctly, right? So let's hook this up correctly. This actually belongs more here, right? Wait, undo my hand. So this actually belongs a little bit more here. This belongs here. Okay, this goes here. Maybe this goes back here. Can't get these lines to draw. Okay. All right, let's just get rid of all the lines. Oh, oops. Okay, so tell me how you think this should be drawn. So we got an ESS, we've got the engagement survey, we got the transformation services. How should this all fit together?
There should be the ETS first, then the
Okay.
EES to evaluate the ETS.
Right, right. Actually, this kind of goes into here, right? In this box.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we look at the employee experience, and that gives us the, oh, where is my line? I need a line here. Oops. Have you ever used this program before? This is a pretty cool program.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think when you click on the employee experience box, you
it
should
should. Yeah, that's fine.
link it.
Yeah, obviously I don't know what I'm doing, yeah. But see,
Uh,
look, it doesn't. Oh, okay. All right, wait. Maybe if I click there. Here we go. Here we go.
then you drag it to
Yeah,
the employee experience.
there you go. All right, perfect. Yeah. See, I told you. Yeah. Some people know how to deal with challenges better than I do. So, all right. Let's take a look at this side. Probably this side as well. But this is an arrow going the opposite direction, probably, right? So, wait. This we got our arrow directions going the wrong way. Okay, that's better.
Mhm.
And then, oh, come on,
Just bring
Ben.
it to the box.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
bingo. How do you? When did you discover whimsical?
I think back then Shumin wanted to do a HR flow chart and I tried to help her do it. Then yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Bayou put this in as an underperformer. It goes right here. I didn't put that in, but I guess right. No, I don't. I don't believe that's true. I believe every employee should be undergoing transformation, not just underperformance. I'm gonna get rid of that. That part makes no sense, right? Um, okay, so there we have it, right? That is fun because hey, this is the big takeaway. This took us a long time to understand this, Jenna. This is what is called a cultural engine. I used to think culture was organic; it just kind of happened, and then I realized nothing is entirely organic, right? It needs to be planned. It needs to be grown. It's more like a greenhouse than a jungle most of the time. So okay, even though it feels like a jungle, it's actually like it's been designed a certain way. Okay, so this discussion, hopefully, we can see kind of like a few big themes, right? One, when we try to figure out, let's say, how to improve the employee experience, we understand things. Actually, you know what? There's another line that goes back here, from here to here. Geez, come on, stop being such a wildcat. Okay, here we go. Okay, and this is what we call ETS discovery. Okay, but that's the idea that we're talking about. We look at the employee experience and we look for things that we can do better. We're looking for inspiration. We try as little as possible to. Actually, it becomes easier when when the team gets really big because HR doesn't have to invent things anymore. People will invent things. So we just need to, like what you're doing actually is perfect. Go around and observe. Go around and start looking at, hey, what is this group of people using that could be applied to another group of people? What kind of good practices are we sharing? I'm very proud to say that just during like the last 2 or 3 months, we've had a lot of cross pollination happen, and it's been beautiful. So we've seen the breakout room concept finally take place, right? That never happened before. So that's going from HR to all hands, or not to all hands, but to the happy hour now. We saw the other thing was the peer-to-peer review. That first started, I think, in product, and then now every chapter uses it, right? They use a peer-to-peer feedback survey. That was not created by HR. That was seen by HR, and we propagated it out and we spread it out, right? Discord was another one. That was started by HR. We saw that that was a pretty good way to keep like audio presence. But I don't think we're using Discord correctly, because sometimes we have discussions that should be recorded, right? Because they're foundational, and they should not disappear after we're done with them. Okay, so that's essentially the job of HR, to kind of discover all that, put it back in, create a transformation service, develop it, cross-pollinate out to the rest of the company. And that goes to what our mission is, right? So do you remember the HR mission?
Yes, so it's to wait, let me go to
Ah!
yes. I will need to look at the Trello to improve continuously our speed and accuracy of hires,
Okay, that's one.
the greatest professional network of hospitality innovators,
Okay.
and to build an innovation culture for leading the global hospitality industry.
And that's it. That's pretty much that's the way we see it. And the truth is, actually, it's happening. A lot of the practices we started, at least at Bukit Vista, are adopted by everyone now. I'll give you a simple example. I mean, this is so obvious. It doesn't seem like even like an idea, but at the time it was pretty revolutionary. Most hotels and hospitality organizations back in about 2000, what was it, 2012? I think about 8 years ago, they would communicate to guests using email, right? Which was kind of strange. Or they would communicate through the app that they had booked, if there was a messaging app through that. I thought that was really odd, right? Why would you communicate to people like that? So we started this practice of creating a WhatsApp group for all our guests. So we made a WhatsApp group every night before they checked in. We added the reservation team, we added the on-site team, and that was how we coordinated every guest arrival. We had perfect check-ins all the time. We never lost a guest. Hotels would have stupid people on phones and writing email, and of course neither was perfect, right? Because sometimes the phone line is busy, you can't get through, and you just need to ask where's the directions. And a dropped pin on a WhatsApp is much more useful for that. And anytime you would need to coordinate within a hotel, going through one person to coordinate five other people was really problematic. So WhatsApp groups solved all that. Guess what? Everybody uses WhatsApp groups now. It's like so obvious and I was inspired one day because I think I went to Ubud, and there was this really fancy 6-star like bamboo luxury place started by John Hardy, and I went with one of my friends, and the host at the hotel set up a WhatsApp group for them, right? And then the host said, "Are you Jing?" I go like, "Yeah." "Hey, I stayed in one of your places like 2 years ago," right? I was like, "Really? Wow. Okay, yeah." So we talked more, and they told me that essentially that idea of creating the WhatsApp group, she got from basically her experience as a guest when she stayed in one of our properties, right? So once I saw that that was possible, I started asking myself, "Hey, look, is it possible to do this also through what we do?" This is our legacy, Jenna. All the things our way of seeing how things work through a service-oriented architecture, our ways of innovating new services. This is what we actually do. People copy this stuff all over the place now. And it's good. I mean, people watch our videos and later they're like, "Hey, I used your method in our company now." So that's actually pretty inspirational. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to invent services that fix and create that positive transformation around people. So never forget that. When we create the EES, it's always to support the services that we do. And if our services are absent, then they need to be invented, right? And yeah, what you're doing is great. What you're doing, I think, is really inspirational. I wish. I like how you and Shumen actually, you guys just do it without having to be told. You're naturally curious. So try to discover what other ETSs that you have found in the company that are unacknowledged right now, right? I'll give you another example that people don't ever think about, like giving feedback for the chair. That's an ETS. We started that. That was before we always had chairs, and they would leave, and then they would suck again at being chair again, and it was like, oh, well, what's the problem? Oh, they're not getting any feedback. So we started that as something. So start looking for that. That is what you need to put on the survey. Think about like what the company has been experiencing in the past few weeks. We've been experiencing a lot of headcount growth. Okay, and that is going to put a lot of the traditional ETSs in some sort of unstable situation. Are meetings effective now? Is the delegation effective? Um, is it easy to get people to work together in teams on projects, right? These are all really, really good questions that leaders and everyone else should be able to see and design new ETSs to get them right, all right? Okay, all right, cool. Give me a score. How helpful has this discussion been from 1 to 5?
I would say 3 because
Great.
like
Okay.
in terms of like explaining what the EES is about,
Mhm.
I guess I got it. But for what I should do next,
Ah,
not really.
what you should do next is think. All right, understand. This is a consultation. This isn't a direction meeting. Oh, you should also know this. Here's how I say it. Are you aware of this idea of situational leadership?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I
you've
am.
seen this before, right?
Um, no, but
Okay, all right. So situational leadership means as leaders, which you already are leading, Jenna. You're leading campaigns. You're leading the way that people grow. I'm actually quite. I think you get like the core value for being the hero, because you're always brave and you go and you take risks on things that have a lot of impact across the company. So that part is good. So let's agree on how we should see each other. Okay, that might be one of the things. I see you currently probably at maybe D3, okay? Maybe D3, maybe up to maybe D4. Where do you see yourself?
D3 also.
Okay, okay, good, good. Okay, so in that type of situation, I'm going to be doing more supporting and more delegating. You're going to be the one that actually comes up with the solution, okay? So knowing what to do is actually uh, your job in this particular case, right? You got to come up with what the plan is and how you want to do it. If you were in, let's say, a D1 stage, I would tell you, okay, Jenna, I think the 3 things you need to do next are 1, you do this, 2, you do this, 3, you need to do that, right? But if you're already in the D3, D4 stage, and we both agree, then supporting and delegating is the relationship we have as, let's say, if I'm your leader, okay? So in that particular aspect, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to set up the correct context. I'm just giving you the correct parameters for how to think, right? So that your strategy doesn't become misguided. Your strategy stays on track. What you actually create from that strategy, um, I'll wait to see. This is your first time doing an employee engagement survey. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay. You can learn a lot, I think, from Vera. I think Vera made the last one, if I'm not mistaken. The May EES, was it Vera or somebody else?
I think it was Kevin and Ilham.
It was Kelvin and Ilham. Oh, great. Okay, both of them aren't here then. They did perfect. They did perfect, actually. Kevin and Ilham did, I think, a perfect job because they knew what the intention of each ETS was for, and they asked specific questions to see if those ETSs were addressing the problems that people were experiencing. So if you take a look at the May ETS or the May EES, that was, I think, an example of something that can give you a lot of guidance, all right, in terms of how this should be done. Uh, Ultimately, we should probably put another question. Oh, we do. We do. We put questions of, is there anything else on this survey that should be covered that is not being covered? Okay, so that gives us a direction to go for the next one, actually. And so here's some first step. If you want a first step, take a look at the May employee engagement survey. See if there's anything that we can follow up on from that particular survey, and take a look at how the questions were structured. to reflect each employee transformation service, and that should give you a little bit better direction. Okay, now how do you feel? Once again, 1 to 5.
Or
4. Okay, why not a 3 this time, and what would make it a 5?
why not a 3? Because like I have a better idea of what I should do next.
Okay, good.
Why not a 5? Because I still have questions.
Oh, sorry, I didn't let you ask your questions then. That is
Hmm.
my mistake. What are your questions, Jenna?
Um, so like should with regards to what you said in Slack, should I create new ETSs and then make the EES based on the new ETS?
Okay, this is what I would do. Um, have you detected any new ETSs that are not currently listed in the bottom funnel?
Mm, let's see. I think there are maybe some, like perhaps on the part on time management.
Ah, okay, very good. Right. So, what have you discovered about time management?
Uh, Probably it's like what you said, because like we are growing bigger as a company. So like there are certain meetings whereby it's too large a group and it's a bit difficult to have like everyone being engaged and putting in their thoughts.
Okay, so that's maybe time management, but I think the specific one is actually an ETS is so obvious we don't even think of it as an ETS, which is a meeting, a sync up meeting. I don't think we've actually put that down as an actual ETS. So I think one of the ETSs we can ask is, are the sync up meetings inspiring delight? Simple as that. Do the sync up meetings actually help you innovate and positively transform guest partners, yourself, and other employees? Right. That is a perfect example of something we should examine. I think the other thing we can probably examine is okay, in relation to, let's say, time management, effective use of your calendars. Okay, do you feel like you could just maybe study this in general, right? Time management is usually the way we coordinate that is through calendars, right? Do you feel like your calendar is too busy, too empty, too, are people having difficulties? Are you having difficulties getting meetings that you need? Are you having difficulties deciding what to focus on and put on your calendar? Are you using your calendar, right? That could be, I think, a few things to bring up on time management. There could be more, I think, with, let's say, engagement. Just simple things, again, like Trello and paper. Do you feel like your questions are being answered with any insight by your colleagues and by your leaders in yeah, written communication, right? Online written communication. You could actually start that up. Do you feel like there is good coordination? Good. Does the written communication inspire delight at this moment? Right? Why or why not? Um, are these responses you're getting helpful to bring innovations, right? Positively transform, all these type of things. So you can go really, really fundamental in this month because the fundamentals are all being tested this month. Um, Generally, when we have fewer people, we start working on new ideas like, oh, okay, let's add this, let's add that. But we can go back to basics when the company has expanded. You broke Vinny's bottle, you little turd. Okay. Oh, Eka, meet Jenna. Jenna, meet Eka. Here, come over here.
Hello.
That's a great introduction line, yeah? You broke this bottle, you little turd. This is my daughter. She's 13. This is Jenna. Jenna saw pictures of you in Singapore when you were like a
Hello.
kid. Now she's almost as big as me.
You're
Look,
13 and you're so tall. Oh my goodness.
yeah, and I'm 1'8", right? So
Oh
she's
my
already
gosh.
1'5".
Okay.
Yeah. People think she's my wife or I don't know, some other things sometimes. It's pretty weird. But
Oh
anyway,
my god.
you okay? Kitty K, don't walk around the glass, Kitty K. Okay, anyways, yeah. Sorry, I'm working from bring the home to the office now. So
Yeah.
okay, anyhow. All right, let's give it a shot and just send me the. I'll be online anyways, right? So
Mm.
send me whatever you have. My response time today, I probably can respond by tomorrow morning. I'll just say that, right? If there's anything you want to show me to give a quick overview. Ideally, Shaylin should be able to help here,
But
but
she's off for the next 2 days.
yeah, but okay, that's okay. That's okay. I'll be here to listen to what you have to submit, and we'll take a look at that. All right, Jenna.
All right, thank you.
All right. Have a nice day,
Good luck
Jenna.
cleaning.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right.